industry.
This is the Elevated Great Podcast.
Elevated Great Podcast.
With your host, Sethi.
Your host, Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we?
Welcome to Elevated Babes. I am your host, Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra.
So today we're going to touch on a topic that's very important specifically, well, generally, but very specifically also to the fashion industry. There's a lot of people and a lot of models that sacrifice their body quite heavily in order to fit into what the fashion industry considers to be a norm for models. And it's both dangerous and has an impact on society. So we're going to get into that. So I'm going to read a couple of stats before we start.
Wow, you've just jumped right into it. You're let's just go.
Let's go. So we're going to read a couple of stats. So over 62%, so this is on Vogue, and we'll post the article and the link in our description. Over 62% of models polled reported being asked to lose weight or change their body shape or size by their agency or someone else in the industry.
And this was in 2017. So keep that in mind. That stat will have changed a little bit.
Yeah, so mildly, but I mean we still see.
But in general, it's there.
54% those who were told to lose weight, and that they would not be able to find more jobs if they didn't. So that's a big number there. 21% were told by the agency that they would stop representing them unless they lost weight. Over 9% had been recommended for plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is a whole other topic on its own. Mm-hmm. But again, quite a big stat. I'm going to get into some more stats as we go on, but just a couple of those to start with, just to showcase or discuss the impact of that specific requirement in the industry. And we see it every day. We see it all the time with ads, with magazines, whether, we'll get into some of the things about photoshopping nowadays versus, having the models actually be that size and the effect of that. And the effect in society. But the main message here is that there's a big issue that's been ongoing with respect to what the size of a model should be and what the model should look like and the danger to the model and society as a whole because of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the first question we need to ask ourselves is how much has the fashion industry played a role to, in terms of eating disorders? Because really to be that tiny, it does fall under having mental health issues, because that's where that comes down to. And the biggest impact that has is also on yourself, what you're going through as a person, and then how you may unintentionally develop an eating disorder because you're trying to fit in.
Well, right? I don't think it's unintentional. I think a lot of these girls, because they have to fit into a specific way to get into these shows and get into.
That's part of it.
But they're because of that they're losing weight and unhealthy. And there's another conversation on body mass index, not just necessarily weight, but body mass index being under 18%, and doing it at a quick unhealthy pace because they have to be ready for a show or a photo shoot or a specific designer because there's a casting or there's an audition and they have to meet that requirement. And that's the problem. They're doing it in a very unhealthy manner too. And
I think the question we need to start asking ourselves is why? Why is it so important that fashion and beauty is only represented by a size 0 or a negative size 0? Again, we have come so far in so many ways, that yet at the same time, when we think about fashion and beauty, we are still thinking about that tiny person, that tiny waistline. And if you see a lot of women like Beyonce as an example, she has curves and she flaunts them very openly. There have been, women that are entering the fashion industry who are curvy, who are and who are very healthy, but it's still not as recognized. You will not see them on a New York Fashion Week runway, for example, right?
Or even Paris, one of the,
in Paris or in London or whatever.
In specifically, I think it was in Paris. Or is it? One of the articles here that I will post it, but they have the minimum body mass index can't drop below 18.5 now. They need that as a so which is that's a good step forward.
That's a step, and I believe that is in Paris actually.
And the interesting thing, like you mentioned, is you got the Beyoncés of the world who or I don't want to promote what Kim Kardashian represents, but again,
no.
we're talking about just
from a body shape
perspective.
Perspective.
You're showcasing different types of body shape. But you're finding that yes, in the new school, and that's with your you find a bit more in the Instagram model, or Rihanna promoting a lot of that with her new line, like her lingerie line. So like she's taking models that have a different body shape and promoting
But again, just keep that in mind that when we talk about Instagram models, we are not saying it's that. So we have one kind of Instagram models that have also become quite popular, which is a very tiny upper body and then the huge butt, right?
Yeah, it's still not safe.
And that's also a whole different damage to your to your self-esteem, to your body image, and just to yourself, because what goes into maintaining that is also very, 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 very unhealthy for you, right?
I mean, so on that point, but there is still a segment of the market, like for example, we just talked about Rihanna a little bit, but she's really focusing on bringing different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And not just like, I'm talking like natural women, not those who have done plastic surgery or done things to their body to build it to a style. But she wants to use natural women who have natural beauty without the Photoshop, without the unhealthy eating disorders and all those sort of things. So that's the kind of stuff we need to see. I'm not saying that it has to only be one type of model, or like it should be only the
we have to see diversity.
The balance is important, but the conversation we're going to have today is the effect of that ultra skinny 00 model who. Some women are naturally like that, and
that's different.
But a lot of women are making themselves into that to fit into that role, and the eating disorders and the mental health effect of that comes along with that is, I guess, the main topic that we want to get into, and the effect of that on society. There's a lot of evidence that shows the effect of that on young girls who are teenagers and impressionable, or even people in their adult lives who see this, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but for example, like a woman who's had some kids and has a job and has a family to run, and yet she still feels she's doing all these amazing things with her life, and taking care of her family and raising kids, and has an amazing job, but maybe her body is not the Victoria's Secret model body, but she feels so shitty about herself because she's not that look, when at the end of the day she's doing so many amazing things that are like that have to be applauded.
And I think part of that is that when you see and hear about these models who like just gave birth and 6 weeks later they have that body back, as a mom, as an everyday mom who has like given birth and stuff, see, that starts playing the mental effect, because it's like, wait a minute, how did she just give birth and 6 weeks later, not even, she's back into her clothes? Exactly. And realistically, no matter how well you take care of yourself during pregnancy, no matter how careful you are post pregnancy, your body and your mind, you are going through stuff. You need to take that like not like 6 weeks, but you need to take that year actually to first adjust to having another child, like another human being, and take care of yourself.
Well, your primary goal at that stage should be your health.
Exactly.
Your baby's health, and not going back to
the gym and nutrition.
Sure. If you have the ability and the time and the resources to do so, I mean, sure. I'm not saying don't do it, but I mean, everybody has priorities in their life, and they got to focus on the things that. Their health and the baby's health is the most important. Their family,
you know what it is?
You can get your health back, or your body back to a certain maybe level, but I mean the priority is your health first.
But at the same time, we as a society are at fault. Yes, we can say the fashion industry plays a certain influence, but I would say a very honest example. I've lost weight in the past year, and even in the past year since like we've met and started working with each other. The minute I lost the weight that I am today, and this was very unintentional, do you know how many people have reached out to me asking to model for them? It's ridiculous, and these are first of all companies or people that we may know,
right.
And even if it's people that we don't know, I've actually gotten DMs saying that, oh hey, aren't you a model, like blah blah blah, and I'm like, if you really look back to even 1 year ago, when I had a bit more weight on, and I think I still looked great at that point, and I was still working out and stuff.
I mean, you were still fit and thin,
like I didn't get that much off, right? If you go back to 2018, I was still perfectly fine, right? I was still a bit like, I was on a very healthy weight and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't get those offers. Now, for whichever reason I am the weight that I am today, that's when the offers start coming, or that's when you look great. Not necessarily knowing that maybe I mean, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But you look great, and that's the perception that we need to change.
Let me ask you a question, because you're on the opposite end of the stick, where you involuntarily lost weight, but now you're being approached for these things. But what from like how does that impact you emotionally, mentally? Because you're not doing these things on purpose, and this is not you weren't looking for this body type to that's not what you were happy in the body stage that you were before.
Yeah, I was overall happy. I just wanted to tone, and you know what I mean, like tweak a little bit here and there.
The weight loss for you was not because of your toning; it was for other reasons. So you, like I said, you involuntarily lost it to this degree, but now you're being asked for all these things. How does that make you feel as a person and as a woman when it comes to the rest of the things we're talking about when it comes to mental health and eating disorders and all that sort of stuff? You know what?
And I will come out and say this, and this is going to obviously.
Sure.
But there are a lot of days when I get asked, I actually feel great about it, and then I think I should maintain this weight. And when I look back to my pictures from last year, I'm actually beating myself up, being like, wow, look at my face. I was so round. I was so fat. Like, even though part of me knows I was very healthy. I was, and we all know, like, I love food. I love to eat. I love going out, stuff like that. And then, so now I've noticed there are days and there are patterns when if I make plans to like go out and eat, or if I want to eat something, I'm going to think 100 times, what am I eating? What are my portions? But if I do this, I'm scared I'm going to put this weight down.
Are you doing that from a digestive issue standpoint, or are you doing that from I gotta continue to look skinny standpoint?
See, from a digestive issue, there are ways to like work around it and still maintain your stuff and be a normal weight. So off lately, and as I've caught myself doing this, I've been trying to be more aware of it. But the past 2-3 months, I realized it was more on I want to keep my weight. I want to be this size. And sometimes, and then there are days where I'm like, I look too skinny, so I look too ugly, so I want to put some weight back on. So how do I put that weight back on? Then I'll start eating all the crap in the world, thinking that's the right way to do it. But then I still end up losing more weight. So I get stuck in that vicious cycle. But then when I get the compliment of like, oh, but you looked great in that swimsuit, or you looked great in that dress, or you know what I mean, or it just flows on you, that's when it starts playing. And that's a very normal human reaction.
It's so dangerous, because it wasn't like you were an unhealthy weight before. It wasn't like you were overweight. It wasn't like your body mass index was, like anything. Like you were at a healthy place. And now, like I said, because you involuntarily lost this weight, but now you're being fed all these positive compliments as if it's a good thing, and that is such a dangerous place, because now it's like, well, now I got to maintain this, and I got to always look like this.
And I mean, I do want to highlight one very important thing, and this is for everybody who's listening. When you feel like this, like when you feel that good, when you get these compliments, it's not to. I don't want anyone hearing this thinking, oh, we're not emotionally strong, or we should know better. It's got nothing to do with that. The logic part of you can know it, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Everybody loves being told they look good. You enjoy that.
It makes you feel good about life, yourself, all those
exactly, right? So I just want to keep that in mind if anybody's hearing this, and keep that as we are having this conversation. And what this leads to, and this is I think in one of our articles as well, it actually triggers and leads to an involuntary eating disorder. So you may not even want to go down that path, but then there are times you're actually on that path and you don't realize it. And then you get stuck in that vicious cycle. Right?
Well, it's because it's like, I'm going to go on this diet to lose weight, but you don't realize that it's not actually a diet. What you're doing is an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's binge eating or bulimia or anorexia. Like there's a few more common ones, but some of these diets and fads lead into
an eating disorder because if you're not okay, so you know you have an eating disorder when, yes, if you take out the whole digestion stuff aside, like depending like what your body needs and all that stuff, but if you have to think 3 times or more what meal you're eating, and if you are not full because you're scared that if you eat or indulge more into it, you have an eating disorder. If you are only having very tiny meals and only 3 of them or less in a day, no matter what your schedule is,
caloric intake, right?
It's not okay.
I had a friend that was at one point trying to lose a bunch of weight, and he did it really quickly. But he was working out. I'm talking like CrossFit, HIIT training, like super aggressive, 3 times a day. But at the same token, he was also doing, I think at that time, less than 1,000 calories or something per day. Like obviously he lost a lot of weight very quickly, but it's so unhealthy. And
it's so dangerous because
your body can go into your body's already going into a shock, but it can go into a shock where it shuts down on you, right? Like imagine if you're working out 3 times a day at max capacity, losing whatever 700 to 1,000 calories per workout. You're working at a super max capacity and you're eating less than 1,000 calories a day. Like, what if your body, because it doesn't have the nutrients, it doesn't have the sugars, it doesn't have the things it needs to feed off of to live for the day, let alone adding those workouts in, your body shuts down and you just pass out. And
not only that, you end up actually harming your entire digestive system. You actually end up doing that because what happens is that the healthy bacteria that's in your body, it starts feeding off itself.
Yeah.
And that causes a lot more issues.
Yeah.
So
people look at for example, like bodybuilders and those like who are professionally competing, and they have like the under 10% body mass index, but their muscle levels, like their muscle, I forget the term for it, but their muscle index from the body is so much greater than most of ours. So that's what's maintaining them too, right? Like they're skinny, yes, but they're still at a healthier space than those that are just at that point skin and bones, right? If they're under the 18%, you have your abs showing that. Like I went through this, but there was a point where when I first started smoking, I'm like, I want to make a change. So I started. This was like 6 years ago. So I started doing again high intensity training, and all I ate was very cardio heavy, minimal weights, a lot of body weight, and I started doing like just greens and proteins, and I dropped, I remember that time, like I was smaller from anyways, but I dropped 20 pounds, and 20 pounds on me is a lot.
Yeah.
And like even like my sister, my family, my friends they're like, dude, like you're too skinny,
you're too skinny. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but I have the 6-pack. And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
In the moment, I'll give them like I built a 6-pack, but I like even my muscle didn't show me because I was so skinny. I didn't realize until I saw pictures afterwards when I gained the weight back, and I was like, holy shit, like what did I do to myself? Like, and again, like if I look back on it now, I wasn't doing it from the standpoint of I have an eating disorder, but I kind of did, like because I was at that point. My whole goal at that point was to have a specific body. Like I just wanted 6-pack, nothing else mattered. Not realizing that I didn't do it in a healthy way. Like I'm not far from it now, but my body's a lot healthier now.
And you touch on a very good point, is that it's also the false sense of that positive self-image that you have, right? Like, because at that point you're just like, holy shit, like I look so good, and we've all been there. Like,
but it comes from the same source. It comes from like, I'm not saying like it's coming from a catwalk, but it's still coming from me seeing images of people that have that perfect body, and I'm like, I can have that. And as soon as I saw the 6-pack, I'm like, I have it now, and I will do anything not to lose that. Yeah. Which is so terrible because I'm not being healthy. Like I'm eating 0 carbs all the time. Like for 3 years I didn't have a carb. And that's so unhealthy. Like
your body needs it.
Yeah, I'm denying the nutrients to my body. Yeah. Like my body needs that to survive. And like yes, I had that going on, but I was very like weak all the time. I was very tired. I was very like my body was not like I was not healthy at that stage until I changed it. And then obviously I changed it because I'm like, now I want to put on some muscle. So I started to change it and change my eating habits. And I gained the weight back, and now like I'm at a point where I'm not far from the 6-pack, but my muscle mass index is there, and my body fat percentage is at a healthy range, and I'm happy where I am. But but it's only because I saw that and I saw the effect it had on me. I don't want that again.
And see, that's a very key thing you said, is that you are happy where you are, and you're happy at the progress you're making at your own pace, right? And that is something that a lot of us don't take into consideration when we're doing these things. Like last year when I was kickboxing every 3-4 times a week, I was getting toned. I was losing weight, but not at the rate that I lost after that. Like that was still like, but I noticed that my diet back then too, but I still had carbs. Like I had my shake, and I would still include, carbs in the day. At night I would not do that, which is still fine for like what my goal was, but my body still got everything. I was still overall pretty healthy, and I looked it, and it showed on my skin and all that stuff. Now when you realize that, and you want to go back to that routine, it becomes psychologically challenging sometimes. Like, for example, one of our friends, like we were just chatting, and he's like, Rashi, like, why don't you have chocolate milk at night before you go to bed? Like, you'll just try that, and you'll just feel great, because it's like being chocolate milk. And I was like, okay. So the first couple of nights I did it, I was like, wait, this is so amazing, because I love it. And I was like, okay, cool. The next night, I was like, shit, like, first of all, it's not almond milk, it's 1% milk, so that's still fat. And then if I have milk at night, even though I'm up for 2 hours, what if I get a belly? And you know what I mean? And that whole train starts.
Those thoughts come back into your head.
Versus being like, I want this, I want to fucking enjoy it, it's totally fine, because I have this going on for me, I have that going on for me, it's not the end of the world, right? And that's one of the things a lot of us who are going through this process, and like the everyday person is going to struggle with.
There's an interesting stat that we were reading in one of the articles that you found. So according to the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, nearly 70% of girls in grades 5 through 12 said magazine images influence their ideals of a perfect body. In so-called pro-anorexia forums, posters write about watching fashion shows and combing magazines for thin inspiration. So let's think about this for a second. These are girls in grade 5.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about high school. Like, they don't,
grade 5.
No Instagram.
10 years old.
10 years old. And just think about that age for a minute and the impression that it's having on that girl. I think further down in that article, there was one of the Victoria's Secret models eventually came out on her Instagram and apologized for the body image she was promoting, because what she didn't talk about was the negative behind the scenes of what was going on in order for her to create that body image, and how much it impacted her emotionally and mentally and all those sort of things, and the impact it had on her lifestyle and the way her relationship.
It does, because when everything is around your self-image, which affects your self-esteem, it starts impacting your relationships. Right? And all that stuff.
Sorry, I think that was going to give us some timing over here.
Yeah.
So everyone looked in that direction.
We're like, what?
Yeah. Conversation's disrupted. Thanks, now.
But that's the thing, right? Can you just leave Nav alone?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Continue.
Yes, there you go. but the point is, it's your self-image but it does have an effect on your self-esteem. Whether we want to admit that or we don't want to admit that, but that's a huge part of it. So when you have girls who are 10 years old and they're looking at these magazine image like these pictures and stuff like that, and I've been through that phase as well, you are actually thinking in your mind that, oh, like so and so looks like this, like Ariana Grande looks like this, so like why can't I look like that? Okay, can we focus?
Sorry.
Thank you. Dear God, what do I deal with? Britney Spears at that point looked at like a certain way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all these things, it's very normal that it plays on your mind. And don't forget, as much as kids and young adults are a lot more quote unquote grown up than we were and are more exposed to things, your mind is still like developing, right? It's still affecting you.
Okay, let alone grade 5. I'm talking about like even teenagers or like really young adults at 21. Like it doesn't. Like those ages are still very impressionable ages. if you haven't, like, they haven't gone through some of the things, like, them, the kids, they're like, all those things where your body naturally changes and your priorities change. At that stage, all you're thinking about.
Just this one question. Just imagine, and when you're 10 years old or 12 years old, let's say even 15 years old,
Sure.
your self-esteem and your self-image is damaged so much by what's out there with the fashion industry and the entertainment industry that when you start entering relationships, when you start, going off to college on your own, when you start trying to be an adult, just for a moment reflect on, if your inner self is already so damaged, how are you going to be surviving life in the way you fully want it to survive?
You can't. Because your perception of those things happening around you is skewed by the way you already see that world, right? It's like, I have to have that perfect image. So if I, for example, if I don't get this specific job now, that affects my image. If I don't have this specific, my boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't look a specific way or have that look that I'm seeing everywhere in magazines and that sort of thing, then I'm not going to be perceived as a success or whatever the case is. Like, your whole perception becomes superficial on what that expectation should be of what your life should be like.
Do you know
it goes past just the body image.
Do you know how many times I've met like my past girlfriends or friends that I've known in the past or like whatever, they've actually told me, yeah, you know what, so because he likes me to look this certain way and have my look a certain way, even though I may not love my like seeing myself like that, but I know he likes it, and I'm gonna talk from like my point of view.
Sure.
I'm doing this like that. And for me, that was because I've never that way like conformed to any of my like past, of course, but that's the one thing that really hit me hard, that if you are in a relationship with someone, how is this person wanting to be with you only if you are a specific weight and look or whatever? But from a psychological point of view,
I
just think of the damage that's doing to the person's self-image and self-esteem.
I agree. So I think I'm gonna just put like sort of a twist on that a little bit. I think there's a difference between a partner looking for the best in their partner, versus having them look a certain way because that's what the image should.
Oh yeah, so I'm not going on the whole preference and this is health. Like I'm not going that this is the best. So yes, because our partners want to see us in our best. That's a whole different story. But that's done in a very healthy, loving manner.
No, of course.
Right?
Sorry, we're going to take a quick break right there for a short message from, I guess, us two.
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break just to remind you where you can find our podcast online.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Tunes.
Apple Music, or you call it Apple Tunes.
Whatever.
Right. You can also find us on TuneIn, on Google Play, and of course Instagram when we do it the first Tuesday of every month.
And Facebook, here and there.
Here and there.
Here and there.
So thanks for tuning in, and now back to our podcast.
And we're back. We hope you liked that message. Those two very beautiful people were giving you some very important information.
How to like flip your hair the right way.
No, we were talking about the message where to subscribe to our.
Oh yeah, that message.
Very beautiful people. Very beautiful people. So sorry. Yes, you were in the middle of.
So I'm not talking about your partner motivating you to have the best in you, because that's very different. That's when you are in a very healthy, loving relationship, and you know that difference because you are so confident in yourself that when your partner tells you, hey, you know what, we are doing this, let's work out, or let's do this, or let's eat healthy, it's a mutual love and understanding way of doing it, right?
Just trying to live a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly. That's very different. It's also very different when, let's say, you know your girlfriend likes when you wear a purple sweater, as an example. Right.
Very different.
But that's what I'm saying. That's very different when you do that.
Long hair on a girl.
I did not ask that, but sure.
Yeah, but it's important. Like, that's different.
Okay, women who are listening, please make sure your hair is long if you are going to DM and send your profile pictures and your bios.
Yes,
and they will be passed through me because I'm very, very critical, which we all know.
Drink my wine now.
So anyway, so that being said, but But see again, but that's very different, right? That's a preference that makes someone happy. You are in your own self. You are confident. You're like, this is who I am as a person. This is what I like to do. Yes, me wearing a purple sweater makes my partner happy. Sure, why not? It's blah blah blah. That's very different.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the fact that we start putting that pressure on our partners to be a certain way because we think that's ideal.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
from that perspective, it's wrong. As long as you're doing it if the motivation is, the person could be healthier for their own selves, or it's gonna have a positive impact on your relationship, where it's something healthy for both of you. But if it's just because it's an image or branding, like my partner has to look a certain way, then dude, with all due respect, if you're dating someone that doesn't have that look for you, or in your mind what it should be, then
Don't date
there.
there.
Don't put that person through torture. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair to that. And it goes both ways. There's a lot of girls want a guy with a very specific look too.
100%.
And when they find someone who's an amazing, for them, they consider an amazing personality, but then the look is not there. It's like, okay, well, they're gonna push them to have a specific look, and that becomes the goal.
And
you're changing that person.
And again, right? These are men and women with self-esteem issues, with self-image issues that end up in the wrong relationships because.
I don't agree with that sometimes, because sometimes it's like you may sometimes it's genuinely you care for the person, and you start to conform because you genuinely care for the person. So it's not. I don't consider that a self-esteem issue. Like if for example, if a guy is into a girl and the girl's like, well, I need him to look this way. She may not say that like initially, but eventually down the line, and he starts to conform to that, not because he feels he has to keep her, but because he cares about her. He knows it's important to her. The mental effect of that is very dangerous too.
But again, that's what I'm saying, right? There's that line, and I'm not talking about the healthy line. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you have been growing up thinking that you are not comfortable in your own self, in your own body, in your own skin, and you need to look a certain way, and you keep going through all these things, and see, we are now at an age where we've openly started talking about spiritual well-being. We have openly started talking about law of attraction and like manifestation, because we've come to that point in life. Shut up.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, but not something I'm like broadcasting to the world. But
yoga, I work out like 4 times a week. You do yoga and work out. These are positive, healthy things.
I love how you just share my facts without me knowing that my facts are being shared on our podcast.
I just shared it too. So I'm just saying, yoga is an important way to have that spiritual healthiness. And
it's actually more than yoga. Like there are people.
I'm only sharing the yoga. If you share anything else, now it's on you.
Guided meditation as example.
There you can't blame me for the yoga comment.
I was gonna get into that, but anyways, my point is that we're having these conversations because we've come to a point where mental health awareness has become a wide range topic, and I mean, I stopped talking about it only because the word anxiety and depression became buzzwords, and that really like bothered me, which is why I was like, there are other issues that are happening that we have to shed like light.
Now the camera.
Woohoo!
For those listening, Rashi's hair is coming in the way of the camera.
So I just like flipped it.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a Bollywood style of flipping.
You said that first. Nobody else said it.
Yeah, but that was
her comment?
That was not supposed to be like in public. But anyways, but so since we are having those conversations, I will say that once you realize that you are suffering from any sort of mental health now, and I'm not just talking about an eating disorder, it could be anything. It could be and once you start getting into that spiritual side of things, and when I say spiritual, I'm not going on religion, I'm not going on God or whatever. It's whatever you believe, but it's more so on yourself.
It's 2 different things, right?
Yeah, but there are people who actually don't know that.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about spirit.
Yeah, I'm talking about tapping into your own self.
Yes.
Right? Like, start facing the hard truths about life or about who you are, and getting out of that victim mentality and saying, okay, you know what?
He said, no matter where you go, you are who you are.
Yeah, and that's what you tell me at times. And tapping into that and saying, and even if it makes you uncomfortable, once you start getting to that route, you start recognizing your own behaviors, right? And then you start doing that.
The self-awareness is so important.
I mean, for whoever's listening, and whatever mental health issues you are going through, it could be, again, anything from compulsive behaviors, to an eating disorder, to an involuntary eating disorder, to anxiety, to depression, to like a mood thing, whatever it is. When you start tapping into yourself, whether it is through yoga or whether it's through any sort of meditation, like along with whatever help you are getting, which I hope you are. If not, do reach out to us. We do know a bunch of like resources and we can guide you. I personally will definitely recommend tapping into yourself and at least starting with meditation, even if it's 5 minutes a day, and that slowly builds up. Because once you start focusing your energy, you start questioning yourself, and it's okay to not have those answers. It's okay to say, you know what, I do not want to be a size 0, but I love when my friends think I'm that hot. It's totally okay to admit that to yourself, because once you have admitted that, then you ask yourself, but why? And then once you start asking yourself that why, with the right resources, of course, please, you start solving your own problems. And once you start working on yourself, it does change you. It does give you a better life. And then once you see these models in magazines and these, you know, people on the runways or like whatever, now I'm going back to the whole, you know, eating disorder, you don't feel compelled to look like that. You're like, hey, that's cool, but I fucking love my curves. I love my butt. I love this. I love that. And you go on, right?
I like big butts and I cannot lie. Hey!
Okay then. But yeah, that was just like, just wanted to like end a bit on a positive.
No, of course,
you know.
and that's the best way to look at it. Like your body image is not the only thing that defines you. Like if you look a certain way, you got to learn to be happy with that and understand how to work that, because every body image has beauty in it. And that's what you got to remember. And your beauty doesn't just, you know, it's not just a superficial. It's not superficial just about the look. It's about everything that you are as a person. And that's what you're talking about with the spiritual side. So understanding and tapping into yourself and understanding who you are as a human being is going to bring a lot more happiness and a lot more positivity to your life than just focusing on the one thing being the image.
Yeah, and then what happens is as you start going through this, and again, if you are suffering through a mental health issue, make sure you are getting
Just talk to someone then. Just have a
get the help. Even if you're working on yourself, get the professional help. It does not weaken you. It makes you stronger, because you have to face these things and you have to like rebuild yourself, and that's amazing. And then you start to also outgrow certain things, but it feels empowering because you are at a whole different level in life, right? And that's totally okay. We're all here to achieve and create stuff, right? So,
awesome.
So yeah.
So we're gonna end on that note. Thank you for tuning in. Rashi's last words were very impactful.
Thank
Not
you.
as always, but this time it was.
Shut up.
So we'll give her a round of applause for that.
Oh my god. I need new friends and partners.
So once again, I am your host, Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red, button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool, fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.